So primarily with tarot and oracle cards, it is during a reading telling a story about their lives, what is currently going on in their immediate energy, what they perhaps are working on. It also gives me insight to their characteristics, certain values or identities, right, that they can connect with. And then at the end, towards the end of the reading for my spread, it also shows me what they're working on or what they hope to achieve as an outcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Wetsel, and I channel information from the Akashic Records. And today, our guest is Liz Glass. Liz, welcome.
Thank you.
Good.
Nice to be here, Lisa. Thank you.
I'm happy to have you. Liz is an intuitive that focuses on tarot cards, tarot or tarot. I think it depends on how you wish to say it. But she also uses oracle cards, crystals, divination, and energy healing techniques. And I want to focus more or less on the impact that these have, these items, these things, these gifts that you have, how they impact metaphysics, but also how they impact the healing arts. But before we start diving into that, Liz, can you give us a little bit of background on you and how you got involved in this crazy world?
Sure, thank you. I'd be happy to. So I am a St. Louis native. I actually currently live here in the Kansas City, Missouri region. Been here a little over 14 years. Been in healthcare for a very long time, about 35 years. And, 5 years ago, we all have a story about how our life changes when we get into metaphysical work or intuitive work. And that's exactly my story. I had a very close friend of mine pass away about 5 years ago in the summer. And I had the privilege of being with her and her family when she passed over. And because of that experience, I was gifted the ability to see somebody come for her during her transition. And with the beautiful people here in the area that I have now called my friends in the metaphysical community, they're able to validate exactly what happened. And so I say my life changed with that day, because that was when I started really developing, walking into my gifts, getting connected with Reiki myself, right? As I'm sure many of your listeners have found to be quite healing, right? In many ways. And one thing kind of leads to another. Of course, I remember thinking as a child, I had a few things happen to me that my family just kind of brushed aside. Of course, I grew up in more of an organized religion, Catholicism, so there is differencing of opinions there as well when it comes to metaphysics or spirituality. But right now, that path from 5 years ago has graciously brought me to you and your listeners. And now for the last several years, I've been privileged to read tarot and oracle cards, be a Reiki master teacher, use crystals, and like you said, other divination tools and treatments to use as part of my healing modalities. Yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm excited to share a little bit more as we go.
Yeah. So what do you focus on? Do you do more in like health energy work, healing, or are you looking more at the psychological aspects of our lives? So how do you use these tools, or what do you use them for?
So primarily with tarot and oracle cards, it is during a reading telling a story about their lives, what is currently going on in their immediate energy, what they perhaps are working on. It also gives me insight to their characteristics, certain values or identities, right, that they can connect with. And then at the end, towards the end of the reading for my spread, it also shows me what they're working on or what they hope to achieve as an outcome. And I can tell you, for many of the people that I read for, some of it is I like to see that down on the table in a spread of cards, that reinforcement of what they're working on, or that our higher divine power sees that, right, and helps them feel good. It also, I hear many of my clients say how validating the work is, or the cards, the readings that we do, because it really is acknowledgement, right, of what they're going through. There are some serious things, of course, that come up during the readings. Many people, talk about traumas, right, that have happened to them that trigger that get triggered during a card reading. And so we just kind of sit and acknowledge that. Because I am a registered nurse and have a nursing background, I do kind of have that lens when I read. That's not front and center. I don't necessarily do consciously medical intuitive work, but that component is probably there more than I realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're talking about tarot and oracle cards. So a lot of people don't really know what the difference is between those two things. So can you kind of give a description between both and the differences?
You bet. I've always explained tarot cards really kind of set up as a deck of playing cards, right? So they have the major arcana, the minor arcana. They consist of 78 cards. They are numerically numbered sequence as well, but they have suits or categories, right? And so tarot cups all mean about emotions, right? What's connected to our heart. Pentacles relate to money or abundance or prosperity. Swords typically mean challenges or obstacles. And then you have the rods, or some people call them wands, really typically means information, knowledge, support, depending on the number of the card. The major arcana cards can also represent transitions. So that sometimes comes up. Now, oracle cards, of course, depending on the art, the design, or the theme of the deck, one card, I say, can kind of stand on its own as a message. They still may tell a story, or they may answer one single question. I believe in allowing my clients to select a tarot or oracle deck that they resonate with in the beginning of our reading, because I really want their energy, right, to connect while I'm reading with them. So I let them kind of choose what they feel drawn to, and let them pick. But you see now, one card, right, for oracle cards has one message. It's numbered different. It could have a different word, may not have a theme quite the same, right, as tarot cards. So that's kind of how I describe it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper, because I'm asking for myself as much as everybody else. Okay, so the tarot cards, you'd mentioned a spread.
Yes.
So when you use tarot cards, you have a specific. When we're talking about a spread, it's a format, basically.
Correct.
And there's different types of formats that you can use.
Yes.
So with oracle cards, they don't use the same type of spread as tarot.
You can in probably many communities, or among many intuitives or readers, they will do a 3-card spread that is typically referred to as the past, present, future spread, right? You can use that as tarot and oracle. Some people do what's called the Celtic cross, where they have multiple cards, right? Those are probably the two most common. You can also just ask a single question with one, and then get the answer with one card.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The spread that I use in my reading, I believe is unique in the sense that it was divinely gifted to me very early on when I started my business, and that is 9 cards. I form 3 rows of 3. And in that center row, where we talked about earlier, it tells us a story, right? So that center row usually has characteristics, those cards, those messages, words, symbols even, right? Mm-hmm. Will describe their character or additional characteristics or identity of them. The top row is where we see what's really happening, what things in their energy field are closely associated to them. And then the bottom row, the last 3 cards, are what really helps me see and convey the message to them, what they're working on or what they need to work on, a call to action, perhaps, if you will. As I'm sure many people and you yourself know, sometimes those 9 cards aren't quite enough. We need to ask more questions of spirit. So I pull cards intuitively based on wanting to know those answers. I also love working with Archangel Gabriel during my readings. And so I have a deck specifically designed for that. And I pull one kind of final message with that just to give additional support to the reading that we've done. So that's what I mean by spread. It's a 9 card.
And then the Oracle deck is used the same way?
It is.
I mean,
it is
you can use it the same way. Okay.
Yes, you can. You can.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, because
Yes.
Oracle decks, like on it, and again, you guys, I know nothing about how to do. I get tarot readings. I don't do them. Okay, I really don't know the ins and outs of it. I just let you guys tell me what is happening. So whenever, so like with a tarot reading, it's because you have those specific, like this. I'm going to call them the suits.
Yes.
Like the cups, the pentacles, the swords, and all of that, they're like in specific groups. And,
right.
And so when you do a spread, they may be related together. But like when you have an oracle card, the oracle cards that I have, so like, for example, if I have one that's all spirit animals. So they don't have suits like tarot cards. So if you do a spread with the oracle cards, how does that work?
So I rely, because of the Reiki training that I've had and working with chakra energy and color vibration and color energy, I also, so for your example of your spirit animal deck, I would look, one, what type of animal is it, right? That brings different energy in, and then colors represented on the deck. I do that both for my tarot deck and oracle cards. For example, if the color blue, right, shows up on the card, that may be present on both a tarot card and an oracle card, I have the intuitive connection that it is most likely related to that person's throat chakra, right? How they communicate, how they express themselves. If, depending on the position of the card in my spread, it also will tell me, is it something that they need to work on as well?
Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
That for me. Thank you.
Yes. I love the flexibility of that. And I know, again, there are many tarot and oracle card practitioners out there, and, we're all led, right, to do something a little bit different. And I try to pull in all of those things. I also look at, you mentioned crystals, right, and other divination. If I haven't gotten the best read from the card, and perhaps the client I'm working with, right, wants more information, then yes, I will use a pendulum or a crystal of some sort, or I'll actually, see, are any of the cards related to those color of those crystals, right? Like pink and rose quartz, right? Mm-hmm. Definitely heart chakra type stone.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you should bring up crystals, because that is my next question.
Oh.
And how does this work? Right? They're laying it out for us, right? So, okay, so let's go back to the tarot and the oracle. So if I'm having a challenge in my life, maybe I'm finding that I'm repeating the same patterns with relationships. And let's just make it a good, easy one. I have a tendency to get into relationships that may be a little bit abusive to me, but I also find myself being a little bit more submissive, so that I'm attracting that more powerful energy over me. Okay, so this is the pattern that I'm looking at, and I'm recognizing that I have this tendency to have people that are overbearing, have a tendency to put their thoughts and their ideas on me, don't really want to listen to me, but for some reason this seems to be a pattern in my life. Whether it can be romantic relationships, it can be friends, it can be work situations, whatever it may be. So I'm going to come to you. And I'm going to say, I've got to figure out what this pattern is. And so we're going to start with either the tarot or the oracle cards. And so you're starting to see there's a little story that's being told here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm looking for healing. I'm looking to figure out what my path is to get to this point to stop this pattern. So
Mm-hmm.
in energy healing, how do the crystals play a role in this picture?
I would say there definitely is a combination to that answer. So pendulum work, I find there's also the official Boysen scan as part of the Reiki work, energy healing. Pendulums you can definitely hold over each person's chakra. We check to see, right, if they are open or closed, if there's some energy that's blocking, right, that chakra from moving. And the pendulum, when you have developed that connection with your pendulum, it will speak to you and tell you and give you the yes or no, right, or the maybe
Yeah.
symbol,
I'm going to
right?
interrupt you really quick. You don't happen to
Yeah,
have a pendulum with you, do you?
don't have.
Okay. The only reason why is because some people may not know what a pendulum is. So can you describe it? What it
Yeah,
is?
so it's typically shaped as an upside down triangle. It can use them. Really, you know what? You can use a pendant, just any type of crystal, even as a pendulum. It's a tool, dowsing rods, right? It's a tool that connects our energy, the energetic field with divine source. You have that ability, right? And yeah, I would say probably five, I mean, they vary, 5 or 6 sided point, crystal point, typically hangs on maybe an 8 or 10 inch chain
Mhm.
so that it can flow freely, right?
Mhm.
Typically a metal chain of some sort to conduct the energy.
Okay. So thank you. Go ahead.
You bet.
Don't jump back.
You bet. So
Sorry
yeah,
about
so
that.
I would definitely check the chakras and to see exactly where I would need to focus that. In terms of, the crystal work, then there are crystals, right, associated with each chakra.
Mhm.
You've got the root chakra, typically your red stones, like red jasper, brachiated jasper. A lot of people use black stones, right? Black tourmaline, black obsidian, even smoky quartz. Those all tend to be more grounding, but you can also use them as part of your root chakra. You've got your sacral chakra, which is all about your creativity, right? So root chakra is all about safety, security, foundation. Your sacral chakra is all about your creativity, your drive, your purpose. Our sexual organs are in that area. So it's really what drives us. A lot of orange colored stones fall into that category. We have our midsection, our solar plexus. That would be predominantly yellow stones, tiger's eye, things like that. That relates to our self confidence, our self worth, our identity. And then our heart chakra stones, green predominantly, emerald, fuchsite, adventuring, things like that. I also really like using rose quartz as a heart chakra stone. I find that to be more of the self love as opposed to sending love out, right? Then you've got the throat chakra, so many blue stones. And then the third eye, our intuition, right in the middle of our forehead. So indigo, right? Very strong color associated with that. Soda light can be lapis as well. Kind of interchange, I feel. And
Mhm.
then, of course, we have the crown chakra, amethyst stones, purple stones. For those who may not realize, clear quartz will amplify any of those other stones as well, which is really great to if you want to increase the energy with that. So I incorporate those basic chakra color stones into my energy healing work because I want that. I want the benefit. I want my client to have the benefit of that vibration, right, of that crystal, and pull in that energy that those crystals have properties.
Yeah. So how do you use them?
So I will place them on top of them in the areas that the chakras are located, and then I also ground myself and I ground the client as well. So I'll use selenite and black tourmaline on the floor underneath the table because again, I want to create this very protective field that, because we're working with the client's energy and they're somewhat exposed, right? A lot of emotions sometimes come up during Reiki sessions or some kind of healing work. Even card readings, right? A lot of emotions can be shared in that. Sometimes things that they've never said to anyone. Right. So I want to make sure that people know that it's a safe space. And so I set up that protection around us.
Mm-hmm. And so how do crystals work with healing? Because a lot of people don't understand. So, okay, well, I have this rock.
Right.
I have this stone. Now what do I do with it? If
Right.
I'm, it's how, so let's go back to rose quartz. So I have this rose quartz stone. Oh, it's pretty. It's pink. I like the color.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how do I actually apply it to, I call it the vibration. How do you get within the frequency of the stone?
Right.
And so how do you use that?
I would say for those wanting to connect with their crystals in this example of rose quartz, I think one, because you said it, they like it. It's pretty, it's pink, right? So there already is something I feel that they connect with. I also, lots of research, right? Definitely recommend what resonates with you. I want to call in the rose quartz energy, the frequency, the vibration of that stone. Not everybody feels that, right? Not everybody connects with that. Mm-hmm. I think you also just, in some way, right, have to open your mind to that possibility and allow yourself to kind of be open in that space, meditate, deep breathing. And a lot of people also feel that they see colors that connect with those crystals, especially purple and green. That seems to be what I've come across in my practice.
Mm-hmm. And so whenever you go, like, we, a lot of times there's spirit fairs or there's
Mm-hmm.
rock, oh my gosh.
Well, there's
Rock,
like gem and mineral shows,
yes,
rock shows.
what is it called? I just forgot.
Yep.
And people are called to, I want this particular stone because this is what the piece of paper next to it says it does.
Mm-hmm.
But is it important just because somebody sees something that this is what the description is of the stone, I'm going to get it? Is there something that people need to be more aware of within themselves to make the proper choice?
I think that is definitely a good start, a good guide. If you're newer to crystals or not quite sure, right, some of the basics of what each crystal means or what it can do. I think, as always, it's important to go by if you have the ability to feel. Many people report feeling the vibration of the stone that they hold, right? There also is such a thing as a muscle test. And so people can take that crystal and hold that near their belly button or their midsection. And they can kind of close their eyes and become very still and focus on, especially like you said, if someone's asking or wanting to know, is this the one, right? Should I really, is this the one that I should work with, right? Or I'm trying to decide. The motion of falling forward is a yes. And the nudge of being pushed back is typically a no for people, right? Mm-hmm. And so paying attention to that. I also do think that there is this very important, I guess I would say, just inner knowing. People have, everybody, right, has intuition. It's just a matter of how perhaps fine-tuned it is or well-oiled it is or whatever, right? The more you use it, the better it gets, more practice, right? Mm-hmm. But really, and of course, gem shows, metaphysical fairs, events like that can be extremely overwhelming with energy. And so it can be hard to focus. I think it is really good to talk to someone at one of those events that talk through what the person is looking to work on. Right. Let's say, for example, they have a creative block, right? They really want to start writing or being creative in another way. Well, you could look at that from two perspectives, right? Really tapping into that intuition. But is it really about the sacral energy, those orange stones, carnelian, right? For example, orange calcite. Or is it an expression of block in their ability to express, right? Throat chakra work. So that could be more blue stones. I think it's taking the time to allow that person to figure out what they want to use the crystal for, and then just do as much reading and as much research as possible.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You bet.
So let's jump to a different subject.
You bet.
Divination.
Okay.
And so a lot of people don't really understand what that is. So can you give us a little description?
I will do my best.
Okay.
So divination is the ability, I believe, I feel, to connect with a higher source to receive an answer using some type of tool, right? So I believe even divination can be the actual physical signs that someone may have in receiving messages, right? High pitch, low pitch sounds. Many people have that, the ability to feel, right? Typically, divination relates to more concrete tools, such as like what we talked about already, a pendulum. There are dowsing rods. There are crystals, right? Other kinds of crystals that can be divination. I know many people in the metaphysical community that work with skulls. That can be divination as well, because they receive the messages from those skull crystals, right? I typically only work with pendulums. I've seen dowsing rods. I think it's really cool that can be done. But yeah, primarily pendulums. I've also, if like you asked me earlier if I had a pendulum handy, I didn't. But if I needed to, I would have been willing to use my pendant, because it is a clear quartz crystal, right? And again, I feel very strongly that it's the intention. We could have used that as well as an example.
Well, the funny thing about it is that when I learned how to use a pendulum way back in the 90s in massage therapy school, we would use a lifesaver and like dental floss.
Right.
Because it's the energy,
It is.
that's moving it. And so it's interesting what we can use. We don't have to use, a stone for a pendulum, but I'm getting off track.
No, probably 4 years ago, I was in a workshop here in Kansas City, and the person used a string and a washer.
Yeah.
Right?
So
rubber bands.
yeah. So so it's easy. You can get a pendulum. You can make your own pendulum. It's you don't have to spend money on it or anything like that. You just simply need to understand how to use it.
Exactly. And I think the important thing is, it obviously, right, it's the intention behind it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know some people talk about sometimes depending on their abilities and their gifts, they can sometimes overpower, I've heard, right, a pendulum, and, perhaps maybe not get quite as clear of an answer. But I personally have not had that, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, definitely, it's all about intention to get the answer that you'd like.
So how can we use divination as, like throughout our everyday lives?
I would say if you are everyday life, definitely if you need to answer a question, you have a decision to make, right? You could very easily take out the pendulum and ask some questions, be more specific, yes or no questions. Be mindful of the words that you use and the wording, right? Be very specific in the question, so it's not as vague. When we're working with spirit, we want to be very clear, right, with how we ask the question. I always caveat by saying, we need to remember to use divination for ourselves. We can inquire about situations, but I believe there's caution to be used when you're inquiring about other people, right, and wanting to know things for others. So I just kind of caution that's the ethical side of things, right? And probably being a nurse and having that background, I'm little more cognizant of that when I work, but definitely try to keep those questions focused on you and your situation that you'd like to know more about.
Yeah, perfect. So let's jump to Reiki, and
Yes.
because you teach Reiki as well. Is
I
that
have not taught Reiki yet,
okay? Okay.
but I am excited because I am working on and in process of getting a physical space here in Kansas City
Mhm.
that will be starting the new year.
Great, good for you. So,
Thank you.
because Reiki seems to be something that people are pretty aware of. It seems to be, it's like for me, like as a massage therapist, I had to be licensed. I had to go to school for a certain amount of hours, and
Yes.
it was a long, tedious process. But
Mhm.
Reiki is more accessible to the general public, and more
Yes.
people are familiar with it because of that ability. And
Mhm.
so, can you give us a little bit of just break down what Reiki is and how it's used?
Yes. So, you know, right, as I'm sure many of your listeners, Reiki is an ancient Japanese stress management technique, right? Very gentle, may or may not be hands on. And it is, along with the scan of really understanding where the person's energy is in their body, if it's stuck or if it needs to be moved on, I would say there's officially 26 hand positions if you were to go through the Usui Reiki, right, or the Holy Fire Reiki process. And it is this very gentle relaxation. You know, you talk about the massage. Whenever I've had Reiki, I feel like it is kind of this gentle wave of massage without being touched necessarily that goes through your body. Can be a warm sensation, can be a cooling sensation. Some people get really cold, right? Our body goes into this very relaxed state, I believe, when it happens. Of course, try to create a really I'm very conscious of surroundings. So I ask my clients, do they prefer music or not? What type of music? Instrumental, high pitched, low pitched sounds, our energy frequencies, right? And lighting or not, right? Because what I also want them to do is to feel very relaxed in this present space and then just allow them to take the deep breaths that they need to get comfortable and just really kind of melt right into the table.
Mhm.
And now I also, when I've done Reiki, I've had a break. So I had space before about a year or so ago. So when I have done Reiki on clients, I also incorporate sound healing with it. I have a very beautiful Tibetan bowl that is set to the heart chakra frequency. And with that bowl, I strike it above them and run it kind of through their energy, their auric field. And I'm able to tell if before and after Reiki, if we have any more blocks or the energy is clear because of the sound of the vibration of the bowl.
Mm, yeah, and I'm a big believer in the sound healing.
It's
And
amazing.
yeah, it's the vibrational frequency. We are vibration. We
Mhm.
are that's all things have a vibration. And and I think so. I think it's really important for people to understand, how these frequencies can help us heal. When there's a malfunction in the frequency of who we are.
Yes.
So yay for sound.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. I tell you, sometimes sound can do more. As you said, it breaks up that energy and,
Yeah.
can really provide some otherworldly support.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
let's jump to another thing. We're going to kind of go back to the ability to use your intuition in so
Okay.
many different ways. So, a very common question for me is how do I listen better? How do I become more connected?
Mhm.
How do I build on this ability that I have? So, can you give some insight to that?
Yes, and I would say, right, we're all learning. I'm every day there's something that I can learn from, and I ask those same questions to build on. I think for me, I was very grateful to have many peers and special people here in the Kansas City area kind of mentor and guide me and validate, right? Like those were the sounds I was hearing, or I received messages through numbers, right? Paying attention, being more present, without a doubt, being more present, trying not to worry about the next thing that's going to happen so you don't miss what's happening now, right? I think, and then the biggest thing is trust yourself. I still, to be fully transparent, I still struggle with that. I think we probably do, all of us do in some fashion, especially as we gain new abilities or new layers that we ourselves have worked on through our own healing process, our own healing journey. Other gifts become available and our intuition grows, perhaps in a new way, right? And so I think it's definitely sitting in that space with yourself. For me, I know being connected outside, spending more time being grounded in nature, it just, and paying attention to the sounds.
And that's actually one of the things that my guide always suggests. You know, they're constantly talking about just being number one, but also being able to go outside and get quiet and be able to just hear the sounds, hear the trees blowing in the wind. So, you know, but then the other question is that I can't meditate. I have a horrible time meditating. So what can I do to get quiet? So when you're trying to get present in the moment, how do you do that?
First thing is my breathing. I focus on my breathing. Because of the work I do, sometimes I have that anxious mind, right? That jittery mind. And so it is sometimes difficult for me to quiet the noise up there. So I focus on that. I'm sure you've heard the box breathing method or some variation of that, right? So counting your breaths in and holding it and then counting your breaths out. It forces you to become present and focused on just that, as opposed to, I'm supposed to breathe in and out, but yes, I'm still in the grocery store that I was 2 hours ago, right? And so I find that really helps me. I'm now able to kind of block out, of course, a lot more so I can pay attention. Being outside, being connected, doing something, just listening to high vibration music, playing my singing bowls, right? Definitely helps me get into that space a lot quicker.
So let's go back to the box breathing.
Yes.
So can you demonstrate how that works?
Yes. So I definitely try to find a space to sit, yoga pose, whatever is comfortable for those individuals, whether it's on the floor, in a chair, sitting back, relaxing. And the first thing you kind of want to do, I rub my hands together to kind of get that chi or that energy flowing in my hands. And I usually put my hands on my knees and close my eyes. And the box breathing method is really what it is. It's imagining that square box. So what you would do is you would inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4, and then you'd hold for another 4, and then you would repeat that. And the visual, for many, I think I'm a visual learner besides reading, but I think that visual and imagining on that in-breath, you're actually building the square, right? That top line. You hold it, you go down that line, and then you exhale, you go across, and then you hold it and you come back up and you complete your square. Yeah. You can do that as many times as it feels comfortable for you to kind of get in that really relaxed state, right? That's the goal, to get relaxed, to quiet your body as well. Slow your breathing down, slow your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, allows your abdomen to kind of fill with that breath. So then all of the other organs in that midsection can kind of relax as well, right? Our liver is very important for that, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of then bringing yourself back to the present moment. Do that as long as you feel comfortable, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even just one time, just practicing, right? Just that one time.
Yeah. So how do you call in your guides or your information? What is your information source?
So I have several. I have a guide. I also know that I work with angels very closely. Those are my primary source of support, especially when I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm fortunate in the fact that I know that they are always with me. Of course, angelic support. If you're not used to working with them or have not worked with them before, of course, Archangel Michael, he will help us if we're in immediate danger. There is no need to ask, but because we have free will, they will not step forward until we ask them, but they definitely want to help us, right? Mm-hmm. So I primarily work with Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, and Archangel Raphael. Those are my three. And then my guide, that definitely comes out a lot, or a constant, right, frequent, while I'm doing readings out at fairs, or I also, of course, call them in my guide as well, doing Reiki or energy healing sessions.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you determine the ability to work with angels? So how did that come about, where you called them in, you recognized that they were there, or learned to use them?
Yeah. So the very first time it happened was 5 years ago when I lost my really good friend. I started seeing number sequences and numbers everywhere. And I thought, wow, this is really kind of odd. What is that? And I was already engaged here in the Kansas City area with the metaphysical community, was learning things, reading things, working with oracle cards, just, myself, reading cards, getting familiar with them. And I started talking with those other people here in the community. And I had a really good friend who was gracious enough to kind of educate me high level. Hey, those are your angels connecting with you. They're specific numbers, right? Messages, numerology, things like that. And had it validated because I wasn't quite sure exactly, right? I had intuition. I had knowing when I was young or as a child or, early adulthood, but I wasn't sure, right? Or I didn't know what that was. But then I started receiving Reiki myself. And then colors became present, right, during meditation or during the Reiki session. And I started learning those colors for me were when angels were present. Mm-hmm. And I really am grateful for the people who helped guide me along the way to show me and tell me these were the signs, right, to look for when angels show up or your guide shows up. And then making the conscious effort to call on them and to connect with them, ask them, show me in ways that I understand or in a way that I can hear, right? Or connect. And it is still a work in progress today because all of the vibrations change, right? Those energy frequencies change. Working with your higher self as well, right? Calling that in. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It does. So when for people that are curious about how you call in your angels,
yes.
So if somebody is just learning that they just have this connection with some kind of spirit guide, whatever we want to call it, whether it's an angel or if it's some other entity, it may be a galactic being, there's lots of guides out there. So how do you call in your guides?
So I specifically call out and ask, of course, it depends on the situation, but before we started our conversation today, I asked that Archangel Gabriel come forward. And I wanted Archangel Gabriel to be present during this conversation because the communicator, right? Messenger of God. I wanted clear communication. I just started fervently reading about all the different archangels and their duties, right? Connecting with someone in Arkansas who is an angelic healing practitioner, that I've added that modality on to my Reiki, but I've learned that. So calling them in, asking them, again, we have the free will to allow them or not, right, to come in. And so just asking, learning what they do and how they may help me in a situation is probably the best way I can answer that.
And then just simply just say, Archangel Michael,
Archangel Michael, I am calling you forward to protect me in this situation. I'm feeling unsafe. I know that he carries a sword and a shield, and I call on his protection. He's also represented by the beautiful color blue, right? Like sapphire blue. And so I've been grateful to see some of those colors as well. So I know around me that they're there. I have also had, the visions while I've been dreaming, or some probably lucid dreaming, where I've had emerald colored visions, right, of symbols or things come forward. So I know that has happened as well.
Oh, nice. So going back to the very basic question,
Yes.
the oh so common question, how do I discern between my mind and spirit?
Wow, that is a great question, right? Because we, as humans, we have a great imagination, and we can conjure and create a lot of things in our mind. I think what I have found to answer that question would probably be, the best example I can give is when I'm doing a tarot reading or oracle card reading for someone. There are things that I say during a reading that I would not typically say, words I would not typically use in everyday language. Just this past weekend, I was reading for someone and I used the word constitution in a reading related to their disposition or their personality. Well, we haven't heard that word probably in centuries. And I try very hard to set my conscious mind aside and just kind of let things flow. Easier said than done, right? Takes a lot of practice, as you know.
It does.
And it's not 100% perfect, right? We have to trust that the thoughts that come in are from spirit, or they're from the divine. I believe that the discernment or the ability to tell the difference becomes apparent as time goes on, once you have kind of followed that, instead of thinking, right, that you created that thought, or that you imagine that image or that idea, right? But yeah, that is. I mean, again, I think as someone grows their intuitive abilities, finding those people that you can trust to help validate too, right? That have perhaps a little bit more advanced mediumship skills, right? Or have a higher connection, like you mentioned, galactic beings, right? We know that they are around. Light language, right? For example, being able to translate light language, if anybody's familiar with that, right? So it really comes down to just trusting yourself that really is the truth, the intention, right? The right intention behind it.
Right. So when a client's getting ready to have a session, whether it's just for a tarot session or a Reiki session or sound healing session, or getting prepared to use crystals for healing, what do you recommend that a client does to get prepared for the session that they're going to be doing?
I would say, first and foremost, be very clear about the intention of the outcome that you would like to have for that session. When I do Reiki, with someone, I definitely go through an assessment type form, very similar probably to my clinical work, because I want to understand where they are, what their needs are, so that their expectations and my outcome and their outcome all align. But I think, and also to be gentle with themselves. Healing happens in layers. And to kind of come to a session, even reading, that they're not necessarily going to get all the answers that they want, perhaps in the one session, because there are other things that need to be revealed. We all have free will, so anything can change in a moment based on our action. But I think first and foremost, being really clear about what they want to know or what they want to work on, and then allowing just that to happen so that it opens that energetic door, right? And lets that healing flow so that other things can then be revealed.
Yeah, good. So as practitioners, like you and myself,
Yeah.
what do we need to think or consider as far as ethical practices when we're dealing with any of the modalities that you had mentioned, but when we're dealing with our clients,
Mm-hmm.
what are the most important ethical practices that we should consider?
Yes, I would say above all else, be open to what your client needs and be respectful and honor where they are in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be on the same path as you. They're not going to be on the same journey as you. They have different life experiences as well, right? Perhaps, like I mentioned earlier, someone has experienced a trauma, and that trauma is now created a different lens through which they see, right, their world. Perhaps even metaphysical work or energy healing work, they still may be um, in disbelief, right? That it works, or this can't help me, or it's not real, right? And so allow them to come to your space of healing wherever they are. I'm a very strong believer of ethics because of my nursing training.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say at my table in my space where I do energy healing work, I'm always a safe space. I'm open to anyone. Now, if there's a harm concern, that's another story, right? We have to be very supportive and cautious of that and aware of that, right, as practitioners. But above all, just let them be
Right.
and let them know how, as you know very well, a Reiki session or some type of session, even a card reading, can be very emotional and very draining. To remember and to just, take stock in how amazing it is that someone entrusts you with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe the very first time, maybe the only time that they seek that kind of interaction with someone, and treat it as special as it really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's sacred for us to be able to provide the information to those that are
Yeah,
willing.
most
Absolutely.
definitely. That's the
Um,
best word I could not find.
yeah, yeah. So, if somebody was interested in learning more about tarot, oracle cards, crystals, or energy healing, what advice would you tell them to how to get started and maybe even not only just get started, but picking the tool that works for them best?
I would say start scouring the internet, doing some basic research. There are many books out there, reputable books. I would also find a metaphysical community or metaphysical event in their community to just start talking with the practitioners that are there at the fair. They don't have to get a reading, they don't have to get energy work, but just talking to learn. Many of us will just be very happy to sit and chat and help guide them right to whatever they want to learn more about. Read as much as you can. I also find what's really important as you grow in your journey to journal.
Yeah.
Make those notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was what helped me. I started, I still have it on my phone and my note app from 2019 when I started seeing these numbers. Like, what is this? What are these numbers? And just making a note of what was happening, right? When I saw the numbers, or what, in my case, I was very fortunate. Certain sequence of numbers meant something special to me. So I was able to connect that. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has that, but we know now, especially with social media and the work that you do in your podcast, people can educate themselves much more easily, right? Yeah. Than perhaps maybe even 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Times have definitely changed over the last 5 years, for sure. Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much for all of your information. I'm truly grateful for your sharing all of the experiences that you've had to help others. So thank you. But before we end this, do you have a final message that you'd like to share with people?
I would say my final message would be to remain open to the possibilities. Explore, if you're interested in any kind of healing work for yourself, those deep wounds, right? If you can work on them, start peeling that layer back, mm-hmm. and just explore those possibilities. Try not to be afraid. I would also say that. There's a tremendous amount of support out here in the metaphysical community for those who seek that guidance or seek that support. Many people to help you on your journey, wherever you are.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. So how do people find you?
Yes. So my as it says here, my name is Liz. I am the owner of White Rose Oracle. I homed out of here in Kansas City, Missouri. It's very easy. I'm on Facebook. I'm on social media. They both are White Rose Oracle LLC. You can also check out my website. I try to keep it very current of all the events and fairs that I travel to throughout this region, as well as kind of Midwest region. That's www.whiteroseoraclellc.com.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you so much, Liz. I truly appreciate your time, and thank you for spending this with me. And so for all of you that are watching, thank you for watching and sharing this experience with you. And I will see you all next time.